Nobody heard anything up to now, but that's okay. So I agree, and like that's something that I enjoy. Again, is just kind of hearing what y'all are interested in, like what topics appeal to you, and then getting up in front of a group and having a chance to talk about something that you think was really interesting and you're passionate about, and you know, that's a cool opportunity. All right, what about some other things?
I thought organization really like works really well, both with like how the different seminars like came together with each other on the same day, but also like organization of the seminars themselves.
Yeah, several people used outlines, which, you know, 13 minutes is a little bit on the short side. Like if this is like a 30-minute seminar, then for sure you'd want to have an outline. But yeah, I agree. I thought that worked well. That seemed to be a strength. What else?
As a class, we ask good questions, we challenge them.
Mm-hmm.
Which also shows our attention.
Yeah. Right. So like the audience, like bringing good questions into the discussion afterwards. Yeah, maybe audience questions. And that's a really good thing, because if you give a seminar and people have questions afterward, it means they're interested, it means you kept their attention the whole time. So that's a potentially big thing. Good. I'm seeing a lot of kind of big picture things here, right? Which are awesome. Cool. Any other main strengths that y'all talked about?
A lot of the visuals were really well done.
Mm-hmm. What about them appealed to you? Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Which I think was very helpful. And I know like that's one of the big takeaways I got from your seminar. Graphs are important to explain and show.
Yeah, and I haven't decided if I'm going to do that again or not. I kind of, sometimes that's, I don't know if too snarky is the word, but sometimes that kind of shows all the things you can do wrong. And you generally don't want to go into a big assignment or presentation thinking about all the things you can do wrong. Like, I don't know, in my opinion, you want to go into it saying, you know what, I'm probably going to make a couple mistakes, but I'm going to do my very best and learn from it. And yeah, I'm tossing back and forth if I want. But I'm glad if that brought up this idea of like, yeah, presenting graphs is an important part of a seminar, and it's easy to show a graph and not teach anything. Yeah, awesome. Anything kind of more, so Al, you mentioned visuals, like aesthetically pleasing, and I was just wondering, I don't know, like if there was anything like specific, like color scheme, like, and you don't have to mention people's presentations necessarily, but anything like that kind of jumped out at you as far as things that you thought worked really well?
I think it was cool to see how like different topics had different themes. So like Jaden, for example, had the mushrooms in the background, but like I feel like maybe you're kind of more of like a water kind of natural. Yeah. So just how it kind of goes along. Yeah. Yeah, and then the coral, of course, which is in here.
Right, look, yeah, it was salmon colored. No, color, yeah, coral. Yeah, that was cool. Absolutely. Neat, that's a good way to do it. Yeah, Molly.
I thought that there was like a good balance between photos and text and like text size. Like that was also really well done, I think. Especially with like considering like the weaknesses in like your projection and like accommodating for that.
Yeah, okay, the weaknesses meaning like kind of like
that it's hard to see,
like the contrast piece of it?
Blurry, yeah, like just things like that. Like I think we all like took that into account generally pretty well.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Cool. What about things to work on that we could think collectively a little bit? Mm-hmm.
At least speaking for myself and definitely just in general, like practicing talking through the presentation more with like smooth over transitions and like just get the flow, feeling like comfortable enough.
Uh-huh. So maybe we can think about, yeah, so how to work on some of those things. Yeah, I feel like the transitions between ideas, they're kind of like the last thing to get firmed up, right? Because first you got to be comfortable with each of the ideas, practicing maybe slide by slide, and then it's the flow is that last part, like how do they connect your transitions? Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah. Other thoughts?
Really like goes hand in hand with that one, but something that I didn't do that I'm regretting greatly was run through it like the morning of.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Because I tend to just stay up late and work on it late at night, especially because that night was a little crazy for me.
Yeah.
But I think it would have helped me, even though like I got very little sleep, it would have helped me so much if I had just like saw it, even if I didn't like think through it. If I had just seen the presentation in the morning of, it would have, I think, really helped.
Uh-huh. I'll put just before as well. So maybe it's not a full run through, but you're just flipping through and reminding yourself kind of the ideas. Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm the same way. For sure.
In regards to that, like overall piece, could have been great. So
Uh-huh.
just like a lot of people got stuck on one or two slides, taking up a lot of time,
Uh-huh.
and that can easily be fixed.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Like with practice as well, like I don't know, like I feel like a lot of like with the crunch words and like just speaking fluidly, like that will just take like time at least. Like I feel like it's gonna take like a lot of experience, but I feel like just with that extra practice and that extra run, that can help kind of smooth over all of those and just kind of like lessen it just.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. And some of y'all may have watched your seminar back already and have a couple more ideas from your own presentation. So yeah, just a couple things, clutch words. And I appreciate Molly's point. I mean, this class is not going to make you a perfect presenter. It's going to be part of the process. So yeah, but as we move into our second seminar, doing it consciously with some goals in mind, right, might maximize the amount of learning that we take from that second seminar. So, and that's kind of the idea of your seminar reflection too, is like, okay, here are some things that I thought went well. Maybe I naturally do those things well, or maybe I focused on them and they came off well. And here are some things that I didn't do as well. Are those things which I sort of always struggle with, or are those things that maybe I took for granted, and so I, I thought, oh, this is a topic I know really well, but so maybe I wasn't as smooth in my transitions just because I didn't run through it enough or something like that. So yeah, the idea behind this and your individual reflection is really just to maximize the amount of learning that you can take from that second seminar. All right. What else do you talk about? Yeah, Clayton. Yeah, I thought I could definitely add a couple things. Yeah, and I will, and to this list as well. But yeah, before we go there, anything else that you kind of thought of collectively? I didn't know if there were or not. That's fine.
I guess just like making the presentation like considering like participation and everything, but just kind of making it more interactive and like the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like questions or like just like varying like the media that we do, like videos, things like that.
Uh-huh. So you mentioned, so a couple ways to do that. One could be videos. it's funny you mentioned videos, because part of me would think like, well, that's less engaging because you're not talking, but maybe just changing it up kind of achieves that. Is that kind of what the video? Yeah.
I feel like that really like kind of like rounded out our understanding.
I like the quiz.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Recycling.
Yep. Yeah. So like questions. Uh-huh. Yeah. And isn't it crazy how 13 minutes is a really short seminar, but still we feel like we notice it when there's some good kind of change of pace stuff going on? Yeah, I think that's a good point. On that engagement, maybe, so you could have a video, a question, any other ways to engage with your audience a bit more?
I was just thinking more enthusiasm.
Uh-huh, enthusiasm.
And that comes with practice and like comfortable with information too.
Yeah. Go ahead, Allie, what were you going to say?
Harley's plants.
Say that, what about plants?
Harley's plants.
Oh, Harley's plants, uh-huh. So yeah, maybe some props.
I think we did well with this, but like adding personal experience and like anecdotes, like I think that's a good way to.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah. Right, and these two are maybe sort of connected, but yeah, I was actually very impressed by how many folks were able to well, wait, okay, to work on. Yeah, I mean, some of these might be in the middle, but we can get better. We might have done okay on them and can do even better. Yeah, I was going to say, I was really impressed with how many folks were able to bring in personal experience, you know, which was really cool because that connects you. Right, so it's important to think about like kind of how to address these. And you know, I guess from my perspective, you know, as far as the strengths go, I'd piggyback on a lot of these. I mean, I thought in general, like the speaking style, and you know, probably a couple folks had crutch words, but I thought y'all looked very comfortable up there, maybe more so than most classes. And so I thought that was good. And so there might have been bumps between transitions and things like that, but I thought in general, when y'all got up there, you know, you looked like you felt comfortable doing what you were doing, which is important. So I thought, I don't know if you want to call it overall comfort level, and I know that can be deceiving, right? Because your heart might be going 120 beats a minute, but if you're able to, you know, your oxygen intake is limited anyway, right? So you're hopefully not gonna like, nobody passed out. That was really good. Oh, so yeah, I thought your overall comfort level, and I think that relates to the professionalism that y'all mentioned, I thought was very good. And I also thought that the visuals, I thought we had some examples of slides that were really well designed, you know, that kind of draw you in. I thought there was some really good work there. And then, you know, and so then, right, I mean, we saw you know, some folks brought in really good technical content. I thought we had a couple presentations that had some really good graphs and really sought out some data. But I thought overall, you guys just looked like you know, you felt, you know, it looked like an upper level capstone course. I thought the overall level was solid. You know, I thought there's really a lot to build off of. So I thought that was great. As I said, I learned something from every seminar, which you know, is not always the case. You know, I thought you all went to a decent technical level here too. I guess that'll kind of go into here. And you know, some more than others, but I thought that each one of you put your seminar together in a way that hopefully taught everybody something. And so that was awesome, I thought. That's the goal. And so as far as things to work on, you know, when I'm practicing things, I don't know how many of y'all play sports, but it's always great to focus on one thing, right? So like, you know, if you're playing basketball, maybe you're taking a bunch of shots and you're focusing on like your follow through, right? So it's great when you're practicing things to pick one thing or two and focus on it. So, so I don't know, as I was looking, I felt like one thing that maybe could have been a bit stronger collectively was maybe like the conclusion, maybe like the wrap up, you know? And it comes at the end of your presentation. So, so, you know, sometimes we get to the conclusion and we're like, I'm done, yay, let me get off of here. But I kind of felt like maybe like a little more focused effort on the conclusion, you know, like maybe just practice that concluding slide a couple of times. Like, what's the last thing I want the audience to see before we move on to the next seminar or whatever, right? So I thought maybe if I were to think about one really thing to focus on, it might be the conclusion. So I think like all these others that you highlighted, practice is going to be the way to really get there. So maybe just practice that that final transition into your conclusion. What would be some ways to make a conclusion that really sticks with folks? Any thoughts?
I mean, I think doing some of those things we listed down there, like if we do this in questions and prompts, I think that's a great way to do it. Like I was almost hoping then that you do like what you did getting just at the end to be like, all right, now which ones of these are recyclable?
Yeah. Yeah, so we could tie, yeah, so, right. Especially since by the conclusion, like some of our audience might be half asleep. Maybe. So something like that to bring them back in would be cool.
Yeah, definitely. You have landmarks in your presentation, just so you remind everyone what those are, how they interact. Good. But also, I think we'll talk about this more in papers and presentations. So like adding one little tidbit at the end that wasn't in the presentation, so like maybe make people think about it in a different way, or like ask a question can be a good thing to like lead.
Yeah, that could be cool. I'm thinking back on kind of each of your presentations and like what that little tidbit could be, you know? Like I don't know, maybe you find a way to relate it to UNCA or to, you know, North Carolina or something, or to some news story that came out lately. Yeah, something to really bring it back. I like the idea of some media too. You might have a real short video or an image or maybe personal experience. Yeah, all these kinds of things could relate to it. The question, you know, any of that. So yeah, so as you're thinking about seminar number 2, I'd encourage you all to think maybe a little more about how you want to conclude things. What's the last, you know, the last kind of image or message that you want to leave your audience with. But again, you all are the audience, right? So, you know, this is kind of a snapshot on round 1, which, like I said, I thought was generally very, very strong across the board. So I don't know, I guess things that maybe I highlighted a little bit were the conclusions here, and maybe these transitions too. Those of y'all that use notes, you know, just think about that. You know, if I feel like half the time I see folks use notes, it helps them, and about half the time it seems to trip them up. So just be thinking about how that worked for you. And if you can, I think it's always better if you can to present without notes, but maybe you have them up here just in case you forget something. Maybe you have other little cues on your slides that you can kind of refer back to. And, you know, one final idea, if you do have an outline or, you know, guidepost or whatever we call them in your presentation, yeah, coming back to those at the end can be real nice because it gives an outline of what you presented. So it'll remind your audience of kind of what they saw. Yeah, so I don't know, any other thoughts on round 1, moving into round 2, now that we've got some ideas up on the board here? Gonna learn a lot. We're gonna learn a lot. It's gonna be cool. Yeah, quick.
Might narrow my focus a little bit more. It could be easy to trying to zoom out too much and have to explain everything a little bit instead of like diving into one thing specifically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. What did y'all think about like, I don't know, sort of like general, maybe just thinking like over your own topic, like, did you feel like it was too broad or too narrow? What were some thoughts on that? Anybody who felt like maybe the topic was a little bit too broad? A couple heads nodding. Mackenzie, what was that like? What made you think that maybe it was a bit too broad?
The fact that it's a part of a larger system. Perhaps something, maybe like a problem that's independent of everything else and isn't a cause or an effect of a cause. If that makes sense.
Interesting. Yeah. So maybe, yeah, it's tough when it's connected to other things, right? Because you feel like you have to talk about this and this and this. Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Good point. So maybe, yeah. What are some ways that you could narrow it a little bit if you feel, because all of your issues are, right? They're embedded in a larger context. What are some ways to like, so for instance, like, I don't know, the exotic pet trade, is connected to all sorts of things like the demand in these animal parks and, the medicinal, demand, like, I don't know. Yeah. So maybe, what are some ways to like acknowledge connection to the bigger picture without perhaps having to dive deep into a lot of different things? Any thoughts? How do we navigate that?
I don't know if this necessarily answers the question, but I was kind of almost thinking about like making these seminars kind of more of like a series. So like, yeah, I think we all started out with like very broad topics for our first seminar, which I think is like understandable.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm almost like considering like for my second seminar doing something along the same topic, but that's maybe like a more specific study of something, or just along the same topic and kind of like a variation on the same theme.
Mm-hmm.
But I think maybe just considering that we do have two seminars is a way to do that and to kind of like have a broad one and then narrow down to like the issue that like you really want to focus on for your second one.
Mm-hmm.
And like obviously they don't have to be in series. That's just what I was thinking about personally.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you want to do that, that's fine. Like certainly, right. As long as you're, you might be able to like briefly refer to the seminar you've done, but as long as you go in a new direction that you didn't explore, that's a great idea. Especially if that topic really, really interests you. Yeah. So yeah, I guess kind of narrowing it down, realizing that you're not going to cover everything. Yeah. So I guess just being really intentional. And to me, like the idea of including actual data of graphs and figures kind of forces your hand a bit, right? Like what are the numbers that you actually want to show, right? And so if the numbers that you really want to show are, seizures of, pangolin scales over the last few decades, well, okay, that's kind of pinned you down a little bit. Okay, so now going back from that, where do we want to go? If the data that you really want to show are like, I don't know, rates of oil consumption and breakdown with this myco boom thing that Stamets uses, like, so that's kind of pinned you down a little bit narrowly. So yeah, maybe thinking about like the data that you want to share with the class and kind of allowing that to narrow things down might help. And that again forces me to go beyond the ENVR 130 level and to really take you into some data. There's a joke that one of the people on my PhD committee, one of the professors shared, and it's a data joke. So, just laugh politely at the conclusion. You don't have, even if you find it not funny at all. But so the researcher goes out into the field and collects data and like fill in your own X and Y axis here, right? And the data look like this. Okay, then they publish a scientific paper and the figure looks like this. They draw maybe the best fit line, right? Then their figure gets included in the textbook, and what they publish is this, showing the relationship between those two variables. Oh, it's a different slope. Sorry, I screwed that up. But the point is, like, this is the real world with lots of scatter and noise, and there's a trend there, but you got to kind of tease it out and figure out, what's going on. So you put that trend in your scientific paper article, and then when the publisher of the book catches onto it and says, oh, we can include this in this section, they only talk about the relationship and not all the spread of the data and the error and everything. So when you're presenting your seminar, it's a chance. So this is kind of like the intro to environmental science level, right? Like species diversity on islands increases with island area, right? Line, relationship, very clear. But what might be interesting is, like, why does the relationship not hold true for all islands or, So your chance to go and get the actual data is a chance to take us beyond this to some of these interesting data patterns. Because that's the real world, you guys. That's the real world. I know I found science extremely boring until I realized that it was a process and not like a book of facts. Like science is something that we're working on every day, trying to figure things out because there are lots of questions, because every study raises lots of new questions. So take us there, right? Take us to the part that's exciting and gets you interested. All right. So as I mentioned the other day, we're moving into this time period where we're going to work on writing for a while. And your first writing assignment is going to be your annotated bibliography. And I wanted to point out one thing. I don't know. There's like some syllabus gremlin that always, no matter how many times I check it, I think it's because I check it at like the wrong time of night. That's why I don't catch everything. I had to adjust the date that your cover letter and resumes were due because the person from the Career Center who's coming to talk to us wasn't able to come when I first had her coming. So I had to shift that back. So your cover letter and resume is actually due, I have it due on the 28th of September. I also have it due on the 16th of September. But it's not due on the 16th of September because Lisa Mann from the Career Center is going to come and talk to us the week before the 28th. So your cover letter and resume would have been the first writing piece that's due, but now it's the second because that date got moved back. So that's due on the 28th of September. And again, we'll have a conversation about writing cover letters and developing your resumes with Lisa Mann from the Career Center. So that will be that will largely be kind of the criteria that we'll use to evaluate those, because they know a lot more about how you write a cover letter resume than I do. So I'm gonna go with that. So that being said, the first piece of the grant proposal that will be coming up is on September the 21st, and that's your annotated bibliography. And so you'll note there's an asterisk next to it. So that just means that you'll bring in 3 copies of that, 2 that'll be peer reviewed by 2 of your very best peer review colleagues in this room, which is all of you, and then 1 copy which will go to me. So you'll bring that in, and we'll peer review that. So how many of y'all have written an annotated bibliography before? Awesome. What class did y'all do it for, out of curiosity? Are you Mackenzie? Do you remember which one?
Definitely for policy.
Okay, cool, cool. What other classes?
Policy and strategies for sustainability.
Okay, all right. Was that with Dee and strategies for sustain? I guess she teaches that class as well. Like, yeah, that used to be Kevin, but then he retired, and so Dee's although I think she taught it the last time anyway. All right, so if we're so with an annotated bibliography, what's our goal? What's the goal in an annotated bibliography?
To show how each source helps you in your paper.
Yeah.
In your thesis.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah. So I'll yeah, and I'll maybe add 1 step before that. So it's gonna, yeah, so it's gonna review relevant sources, and the reason that we do that is to show how the sources support your argument. So it's one of those things that when we're writing either like a persuasion paper or a scientific paper or a grant proposal, really anything that we're reviewing sort of the status in a given field, it's really something that should be part of our process anyway. Like, you know, for our papers that we're writing for our work in Nepal, I've got pretty lengthy annotated bibliographies for both of them that I use to pull from when I'm writing, right? So, you know, you want to do it in a searchable document so that, I don't know, when I've reviewed 25 papers on climate change in the Himalayas, and a word comes into my mind as I'm writing, I can just do Control F in that document and see which papers have dealt with that topic. And then, you know, if I want to know what current estimates about glacial loss are in the Himalayas, I type in glacial loss, and boom, those papers will be highlighted for me. So yeah, so it's a way of organizing sources, and then the next step, of course, is thinking about how those support your arguments. So what's the first step then, right, with this process? It's finding sources, and I might even back it up one more, nailing down your topic, right? And so, you know, we talked about your first seminar being your grant proposal topic. I did that just so you're not going to have to be going in a bunch of different research directions at the same time. But if you really feel passionate about a different topic at this point, you're like, oh man, I went into that first seminar, but I'm just kind of not all that into it right now. If you want to go in a slightly different direction, that's fine with me. But it's important that you decide that sooner rather than later, because this whole process is very closely tied to your topic. Yeah, so if I come up with a topic, you know, I don't know, say it's climate change effects on Himalayan fishes. So we've got our topic. So what's the next thing that we do then? What's the next thing that David should do? If he wants to write a grant proposal on climate change effects on Himalayan fishes, what should David do?
Well, you just said 5 sources, but I would feel like just 5 sources and like maybe skim the abstract and just save them and be like, oh, this is interesting. Just like kind of like compiling like first like potential sources maybe, and then slowly starting to read them and highlight them and stuff.
Good point. So there's going to be maybe a couple different cuts of our articles here. So I might go What are some search engines that y'all like to use to find articles? JSTOR, Google Scholar, Science Direct, ProQuest. Somebody else say something, I'll repeat it. Yeah, whatever it is. So I like to use Scopus, but I'm just kind of weird that way. So let me just show you something briefly here. So if you type in your topic in any of these search engines, you're going to find dozens, if not hundreds of articles. And so Molly's point is well taken. You don't want to review and summarize hundreds of articles. You want to find those that are most relevant to your topic. And this is when you really appreciate the fact that everyone writes an abstract for their paper. Because the way most of these search engines work, they'll go through the title, the abstract, and the keywords. And so if your search items are in any of those, it'll pop them up. But sometimes the keywords that they give don't make any sense. Like this paper we published on impacts of lowhead dams on fishes and macroinvertebrates, like they gave a keyword which was like Canada or something. So I'm like, what? Like we weren't even in Canada. So you need to kind of sort out those sources. So I just want to show you one thing on Scopus. And again, you don't need to use this. Oops, sorry, that's a web page there. But I just want to show you a little trick here that you might find useful. So here are the array of sources that you can use, and these are all awesome. JSTOR is awesome because it only has full text articles. Some of these others, you get the frustration of finding the perfect article, and we don't have a full text subscription. There's a sidebar. What can you do if we don't have a full text subscription? So you can do an interlibrary loan request, or you can go to ResearchGate. Are you all familiar with well, backing up. I would take the title of that article, copy and paste it in my browser, and just hit search. Because there might be a PDF of it posted somewhere on the web. That's the case with this article called On the River Continuum Concept. Critical paper in stream ecology. Our library doesn't subscribe to it, but that's okay because people have posted it on all kinds of web pages everywhere. There's also this resource called ResearchGate. Have you all heard of it? ResearchGate. It's an online scientific community where you can open up an account and then you can post PDFs of the articles that you publish. So if our library doesn't subscribe to Transactions of the American Fisheries Society, you could go to my ResearchGate page, although I haven't been there in years, or my author, Jeremy Tieman's ResearchGate, or David Edd's ResearchGate, and you could get full copies of those papers. So if you can't find it, don't despair and cry into the night. Use the internet, it's your friend. And a place like ResearchGate is going to be beneficial. But I just wanted to show you a little tool on Scopus that's kind of cool. This is our most powerful search engine, which one of the things that means is that it will find lots of things that are not useful to you in addition to things that are very useful to you. But there's kind of a cool feature here. All right, so let's just say I want to look at Himalaya and fish. And so you can see right now that it's searching the article title, abstract, and keywords. Now I can switch that. I can search on all kinds of things, including author names. 126 documents. Okay. All right. Now, what might be a way to start sorting those documents as far as how authoritative they are? So that's a really good point, Molly. So this will search peer-reviewed articles as well as a lot of other things. And in this, so yeah, in some, I think ProQuest and others, there's a checkbox where you can check on and limit your search to peer review articles. Now, if you look in the guidelines from the Gillette Foundation, it has some guidelines on how many references you need and how many should be from the peer-reviewed literature. And so the peer-reviewed literature just means that those are articles published in journals that before they publish, they send them out to at least 2 anonymous scientists that give their review on it and tell whether it should be published or not. So the easiest way to do that here is just to look at the source. And in general, if you have a journal and then like a volume and a page number, it's a peer-reviewed journal. Now, if you like, you can click on it to learn more about that journal if you have your questions. But just a couple features I want to show you, and you don't have to use Scopus, but just these are things to think about that you can think about through Scopus. One of the things you can do, so right now it's sorting by year, but you can sort these sources on all kinds of things. And one of the things you can sort them on is how many times they've been cited by other papers. So if I want to know, like, if somebody's having a conversation about Himalayan fishes, like what papers do they all know about? Like what are kind of the authoritative papers that have really advanced our understanding of Himalayan fishes? I can sort on cited by and highest. Okay, and so then I've got a list. And you can see there's a pretty big breakdown as far as how many times these have been cited. One of the things I notice when I look at these is that, you know what? Not all these talk specifically about fish. This one is talking about deforestation, and they probably mention implications on fish maybe in the abstract. But I don't know that they collected any data on them. But that's kind of a neat thing because it tells us which sources are the authoritative ones. If we're looking at microremediation of crude oil, this will tell us which papers have really advanced our understanding on that topic that we'd like to include. All right, now let's just say that that this article on glyptostenoid catfishes is like really right on my topic. Like this paper, like, man, like it nailed it. This is really what I want to talk about. So what I can do then is I can highlight, I can click on this. So when you click on that link, it takes you to the abstract. But the other thing it does is it allows you to look at the references that this paper cited. So that's basically saying, you know, when this author wrote their paper that was published in 2006, these are the sources that they thought were important up to that time. So if I find a paper that's like right spot on my topic, I can let that person kind of cheat for me a little bit and tell me what papers they thought were important. Then what I can do if I want is I can look at the list of papers that cited that, right? So I've got this paper, it's really what I'm interested in. Now let's take a little snapshot in time. Before that, what were the papers on that topic that they thought were most important? And then since then, what papers have referred to that one? Okay, so these are kind of some tricks you can use to start sorting that massive pile of references that will come up. And then as is referenced, I would just go ahead and start flipping through these. Now, Scopus has an option, as do other search engines. You just start checking ones you like. Okay? I don't know that I like all these. But, you know, they've got Himalayas in it. And this has the Yeti in it, so how cool is that? Okay, and then you have a checked list. So, add to list. And so then, yeah, so once you've got like this list of all these articles, you start saving those to your checklist. That checklist you can print out or whatever else. So Yeah. So when you're creating your annotated bibliography, what you're going to end up with is a document that lists all of these, or at least the important ones, and then kind of what their main points were. So I just have a couple examples to share. Any questions first on this process about finding your sources? Like, this is the most powerful search engine we have, but there are others. Like, if you to use the sorting functions and stuff, this is kind of a nice website, but there are lots of others you may be familiar with. So when you create yours, it's going to look something like this. You're going to have the citation for the article, although this is not an awesome example because it doesn't give the full citation information. This is maybe one that has a little more info. So you're going to give the bibliographic reference for that source. And then you're going to put some bullet points under it with the main points that are important to you. So you just kind of go through here. And, you know, if you want, you can copy and paste that from the abstract for now, right? Because you're going to have to put it in your own words in the paper. But if you want to copy and paste from the abstract for now, that's fine. You might choose to put it in quotes, just to remind you that this is an exact quote I took from the abstract or whatever, and that, you know, to put it in my own words later, I'll want to rephrase it. So you start going through these. And then often as you do this, you'll start refining your topic. Like, you know, maybe we're thinking about, you know, the pet trade in exotic animals. And man, all of a sudden there's like a ton of articles just on pangolins. And so then we're like, you know, like I've got enough articles here, like I can develop a whole thing about pangolins. So as this exercise progresses, it'll help you refine your topic and it'll help you kind of find out like which sections have a lot of information about them and maybe which sections don't. And so, you know, if you were really interested in looking at, I don't know, sloth bears or something, and you're just not finding much information on them, not that anyone would want to have sloth bears as a pet. That would be weird. Then you're like, okay, we're going to have to like move away from the sloth bears. So this exercise is your opportunity to learn a heck of a lot, man. Like finding a topic you're interested in and like becoming kind of sort of an expert on it and looking at all this different information here. So, yeah, so the awesome thing then is that the way I do it is once I have a list of my references with the bullet points that are most important to me, then what I do is I start organizing those bullet points into paragraphs, you know, into main arguments and main ideas. Okay, this may kind of be old hat for you. You may be very familiar with this process. Any questions on what that annotated bibliography is like, what that process is like?
So just to clarify, this is all for our group, for our grant proposal, right?
This, yes. So this is for your grant proposal, yeah. And this is the part that will probably go into what I call like the statement of need that kind of lays out the background, like what's known, and then you build off of that to say, you know, this is what has to happen.
Is it almost like an introduction?
That's a good way to think of it. Yeah, yeah. Yep, that's a real good way to think of it. Have we gone over that that PowerPoint that talks about sections of the grant proposal? We done that? Okay. We can do that next class. Yeah, so this will get you started on this process at least, which is like the next thing that you'll you'll hand in. So I guess the main thing for us to think about right now is having a topic. So if you really feel like there's an area you want to go in besides what you did your first seminar, and just drop me a line. That's fine. And yeah, and so then once you've got that topic, the next step is to start doing this. Like, look for some sources. Just one other thing to mention is that, like, if I prioritize all my sources based on those that are cited the most, what might I miss doing that? Any thoughts?
Any like new articles or like any like really up to date information?
Yeah, anything that's been published really recently will not have been cited as many times just because there hasn't been that much time that's gone by. So I would also encourage you to look at, 2020, last couple of years, and see if there are any titles or that really look like they focus on your topic to a great degree. And also remember, I have like a minimum number of sources and peer-reviewed articles, but you can also cite things like blogs and websites, which might have more kind of immediate up-to-date information to complement the sort of gold standard of the peer-reviewed scientific papers. Any other thoughts on this process? Yeah, Molly.
I just have like a resource if anyone's interested. I personally like to print out articles and mark them up and highlight them and stuff, but like that's not really possible. Like if I don't have like a personal printer, but I've been using it's an application called Kami, Kami, and it goes through Google Drive. I don't know if you're familiar with it. But
No, I'm not.
I just like Googled like stuff that you can mark up PDFs with, but it
Uh-huh.
allows you to like highlight the text in multiple colors, comment. You can like draw, like you can like circle stuff on the text, and it really has been helping me to
Oh,
get that kind of like marking up and like visually see your points that you want to pull from different papers.
cool.
That could be really helpful with like abstracts and like finding your place. I don't know, because I hate like
Nice.
looking at just like a blank, just like
Yeah.
article, like not knowing where all the points that I want are from.
And so you use like the mouse or something to like
Yeah.
almost like a paint kind of application in a way, but you can
So
annotate.
you can
Oh, that's cool.
highlight something and like highlight it in a certain color. But
Okay.
it's like I don't know if you download it to your computer, but I just like, you have to like download it and it's free. It works through Google Drive, so you can either save the like marked up highlighted PDF to your computer or to Google Drive like in a folder.
So Kami, Kami,
Yeah.
that's really interesting. That's cool. I'm the same way. I unfortunately print out a fair amount of stuff when I'm doing this because I'm a visual person and I have different piles, and so that's good. I know I need to get better at doing that. Well, cool. So yeah, try that out. See if that works. I might try it out sometime too.
I feel like I would print stuff and then I realize it's not worth my time. Like I'll print out a big old article.
Yeah.
It'll be worth it, and then so like that's been nice. You can kind of like get an overview and like mark it up beforehand.
That's cool. And so does it like save it as like a PDF, or like does Kami have its own like file format or?
Yeah, I think it just does it as a PDF. Like if you just download it,
Mhm.
or like if you save it to your computer, the PDF it'll just pull up and it'll already be highlighted and marked up.
Uh-huh.
You can, like Google it if you want to pull it up.
Is it an add-on to like?
Yeah, it's like an add-on to, or like it's an app through Google Drive. But I don't know. I just found it and like it's been. I don't know.
So it's like an add-on.
Yeah.
This one, okay, cool. Document annotation, okay.
Yeah, because like usually you can't like, I don't know, like I've tried to like highlight, you can like leave comments on Google Drive. I've tried to do that, but if it's a PDF, you can't physically highlight the text.
Right,
It just allows you to do that.
right, interesting. So kind of some of the stuff that like Acrobat Professional or whatever lets you do without having to pay for it, cool. Okay, so I guess this is it. Yeah, okay, neat. Yeah, I haven't messed with this at all. So, all right, well, neat.
Highly recommend.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for the tip. Okay. Awesome.
I
Yeah.
have a question about the NVR bibliography. So I know for other classes, I've been asked to like research the author or like discuss why
Oh.
it's relevant? So is that something you want us to dive into, or?
You know, I haven't gone there, Allie. Yeah. So like, I don't know, like when I'm doing this, I'm kind of just looking at how it relates to my argument, you know? And so the idea is that those bullet points will be ones that will relate to your topic. But yeah, I haven't gone into that. It's an interesting thing to do, but I don't know. So I kind of learn about authors just by seeing what they've written, you know? Like I see what the papers are that they've done and I get an idea like, hey, this, you know, this person studies this, but so yeah, no need to do that. Good question. Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, yeah, have an awesome weekend. I guess we won't be getting together till Monday, so maybe it'll be even more fall-ish by then. We'll see.